When I speak about AI, I speak mainly about two things. The traditional AI, machine learning algorithms, can help analyze signals and find the insights behind the signals, and also LLMs. The combination of those two together are very, very powerful.
Welcome to It's About Data, episode 62. This time we're joined by Yitzhak Kesselman to discuss Fabric IQ and combining two approaches to artificial intelligence.
Well, Yitzhak, we're really looking forward to this discussion. You folks have done some over the past, I'd say, like in your past refresh, and most recently, Microsoft's done a very, I think, probably the most important refresh of its whole data, and analytics, platform in years. And what really impressed me was looking at what the area that you've been involved with, which is a product called Fabric IQ. And so what we're kind of looking forward to in this discussion is kind of demystifying, like, what is this? What is Fabric IQ? So, yes, as I understand, you're corporate vice president at Microsoft.
Correct.
Can you give us a little bit of your background and tell us, and then sort of take us into just what is Fabric IQ?
Of course, Tony. Thanks for having me. So my name is Yitzhak Kesselman. I'm corporate vice president. I'm leading the Fabric team. And as part of my role, I lead the Fabric platform and also other Fabric workloads like Fabric Real-Time Intelligence, Fabric IQ, that we'll discuss more about it today. I'm sure that's the main agenda for today. But also I'm leading Azure observability products and Azure messaging stack. So a bit about my background. Prior to this role, I was leading Fabric Real-Time Intelligence and Fabric IQ. And prior to that, I've been with Google, leading their monitoring products for Alphabet OLAP. And prior to that, I've been with Microsoft, leading the Power BI platform that became the Fabric platform, and was part of the early days of building the Power BI product, which was a huge honor and a lot of learnings, how to build a SaaS product, how to build a scalable platform. And all up more than 25 years in the space of software engineering, building data platforms and data products.
So let's talk a bit more about Fabric IQ. How does it work basically, and what challenges is it meant to address?
Yes, man. So today everybody speaks about AI. You hear it.
Yes. Every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, darn. I thought this was going to be a data discussion.
Yeah, it's going to be a data discussion. And more than I like data, and that's what I've been working from biomedical signals to large big data platforms. But everyone speaks about AI. I'm not sure how many people understand well AI. And when I speak about AI, I speak mainly about two things. The traditional AI, machine learning algorithms that can help analyze signals and find the insights behind the signals, and also LLMs, which is so-called the new AI, where it helps to reason about the data. The combination of those two together are very, very powerful. I would say even scary powerful. What it can do, it can find the insights, it can understand the insights, and then even recommend to take actions. And that's what we're doing with Fabric Real-Time Intelligence, Fabric IQ. Building those platform to help analyze those signals, understand them, and then act on it. But when we're speaking about LLMs, they need to have context, the same way that humans need to have context to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how they should do it. The same way LLMs, they need context. And this context in the past was known in the analytics world as semantic models that represent the semantic understanding behind the analytical data. What are the orders? Who are the customers? Who are the suppliers, etc. But when we're speaking in 2026 and we're speaking about agentic experiences and when we're speaking about ability to reason, and the whole point of the world is moving not just from analytical world, but to operational world, how we can collect those signals, understand what they mean, but also more importantly, to act on it. Because the world around us want to utilize the power of AI. To utilize fully the power of AI, it means that we need not only understand, but to be able to act on those signals. And in that case, understanding the context is super important because the action that you can take or the reason that you understand might be partial, not full. And in this case, Fabric IQ introduced the concepts of ontology, which is not a new concept in the software engineering industry. It's an existing concept for more than 20 years. But Fabric IQ expanded not just from the analytical semantic models, but extended to the operational world. So it collects not only the analytical understanding, like properties and measures, but expands it to time series data, geospatial data, ability to drive
Hmm.
actions, rules, policies, and, and understand the connection between different entities at the business level. And that really provides the LLMs really the context that's needed to understand the 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 bigger picture, how the different entities in the business work and interact with each other. But also those entities are rich entities that you can have a full understanding of the entity, not just the properties and measures, but also time series data. For example, where is the package is located, how this package is related to a specific customer, how important this customer out of other customers, what actions, what rules and policies should apply to this package. So it's becoming a full 360 view of the whole business. And that's super
Mm.
important for LMs to really take a reasonable action. And that's where the industry is going to.
Yeah. So really, two clear streams of thought here for what you were just saying, which is one that it was real time intelligence that really was the spark for this. No pun intended. um, didn't mean Apache spark there, but also the need for context. And what's kind of interesting is I think, as you said, that ontology and semantics are not new, but I think until now these were packaged under the hood within an application. I think that
Correct.
to me seems to be like the big difference. But let's kind of probe one part of this, which is that talking about semantics and ontology. These are both very hot topics right now. Can you just and you sort of went into this. I want you to amplify on what you were just saying. Where does ontology pick up and semantics leave off, or vice versa?
Yeah, so semantics provide the semantic understanding of the analytical space, like what are the different entities are, what are the measures, what are the properties, and how those entities connected to each other. And there, the connection is usually by kind of basic relationship based on foreign keys. Example, when you're creating your semantic mapping of your entities. But that's great for reporting. That's great for analytics. It's far from enough to have this for operational scenarios. It's also so we need to expand it to something that represents the whole business, how the business operate, how the entities in our business operate. So if we go back to our shipment kind of example, the entities are much richer than properties and measures. They have geospatial data, for example, where the package is, where is the aviation, where the passengers are in the airport, where are the airplanes, if it's healthcare, where are the specific beds in the hospital and how we can reassign them. So it goes beyond just the analytical, it goes to other properties, geospatial data, time series data to drive operations. And then those entities, you can perform actions, not just reporting. Now you can take action on those entities. And those entities are also interconnected by business understanding that then you can start applying rules and policies and really use this ontology, which goes beyond just analytical and reporting, now to start to take an action, to understand, to create those autonomous or semi-autonomous agents, and not only reason about the data, but also to take an action to really help be the virtual co-worker for the business.
I think that's good framing. And the way I think of it is that semantics tend to be more specific to the data itself. I mean, yes, the data represents the real world, whereas ontology and knowledge graphs tends to be about like the wider world and the details about what things mean, which frankly, data engineering people like me have not been great at in the past, right? Like I have a PhD in math. A lot of people in our domain come from very academic backgrounds and they sort of struggle with this stuff like knowledge graphs and ontologies that almost is a bit more philosophical. So how do we drive development and adoption of ontologies and knowledge graphs? That's kind of a question we had with Andrew Brust as well, whom I think he kind of
Yeah,
introduced us this conversation. How do we drive that? How do we help people to develop these and engineer them and maintain them?
yeah, no. Man, that's exactly the DNA of the team. The DNA of the team that I lead, that's the DNA of the team that was infused. And when we started Power BI, our goal was to democratize data.
Yeah.
Because data, if it sits with a small amount of people in the organization, it's not really helpful to the whole business. The same thing applies with Fabric real-time intelligence as we democratize the ability to work with streaming and high quality data and able to the business people that know the domain to act on this data. The same DNA applies to Fabric IQ and ontologies. People that drive the business, understand the business, they understand what entities they're handling with, they understand who are the customers, they understand what a package means, they understand the trucks, the driver. It's very easy for them to describe and say, hey, those are my entities. That's how they work at my department level or even high level organization level. And that's why we build those tools within Fabric to make it very easy for the business users who are not data engineers to start building those ontologies using no code experiences. Of course, everything supports API and everything that engineers can work with. But really, we want to enable this kind of bottom up and top down interaction, both for the business people that know the domain, but also the data engineers that they can then productize it. But exactly as you said, Matt, like people that know the business know what are the entities,
That's
people that
completely
are
fair.
data engineers are like
That's so
more
great.
theoretically. So
Yeah. I'm going to add one more question here, Tony, as a follow up.
Go for it.
How do you think we stimulate conversations between the data engineers and the business people and even the people working in the warehouse, right? That's always been a problem. Sometimes we call this shifting left. It's always been a problem to connect the people consuming the data with the people generating it. Like, how can we improve that problem?
yeah, it's a good question. That's not a technological question. That's an organizational and psychology question. But what I can share from my experience, how it works and how it and how we can see this change happening. It usually happens when you empower the
Mm.
people that know the business, have tools that help them to be much more productive. Uh, Same goes with Power BI, same goes with Fabric Real-Time Intelligence, and now with IQ. Once you bring those tools to those people that know the business domain, that they start creating artifacts, start creating entities in the system, in the data platform, then the central IT people start seeing those and starting asking questions. Hey, what have you created? What those reports? Should those reports should be central? Are they local? Um, and we as kind of platform builders, we need to make sure that we allow tools to those kind of different conversation to make happen. But it happens organically. In few organization, it's more strict and more structured, and there's like more of center of excellence. But it takes maturity of the different companies to get to this stage. But usually, it happens organically when you have those tools that enable people to take an action, to understand, to empower themselves. Then it start creating and surfacing artifacts that the central team start to see, and then it starts to have those conversations because now you want to have those ontologies or semantic models or Power BI reports or event houses in RTI to be managed centrally and to be fully certified for the whole organization. And that's where the conversation starts to happen. But as you mentioned, Matt, there is no way that one can have it without the other. Both sides needs to work together to really make sure that this is possible, this can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting to see here that basically, I think we all, I mean, we've been becoming more and more aware of the need for context, but how to get
Mm-hmm.
there. And I think what's really interesting, a couple of points for what you're making. One is what you folks do as provider of technology, which is that you've come up with a way to basically, and Microsoft's always been very good with this from the development tools, its visual development tools, and you've kind of continued that into what we today call low code, no code. But you also, of course, have the pro code side, covered as well. But the other part also, as you say, is that there's a lot of sort of organizational and institutional knowledge and kind of stimulating those conversations. Where I want to move on to here is that Fabric IQ is really part of. It's not at all a standalone type of piece, and that also accompanies a couple of other sort of pieces that you're looking to basically build out the business context. And with that, I'm talking about Work IQ and Foundry IQ. Can you tell us where all these three pieces fit in the puzzle?
Yeah. So You're right. It's part of the kind of bigger family that we call Microsoft IQ, where you have Work IQ, Founder IQ, and Fabric IQ. And to answer that question, our goal is to get one step back. Our goal is really to build agents that are as trustable and as productive as our humans in the company. So to have this kind of same level of comprehensiveness and context, our agents need to have the same level of context. To have the same level of context, those agents need to have access and understanding to the same thing as our human employees in the company has. They need to have access to all the M365 data, for example, Outlook, Teams, etc. They need to have access to the understanding of the institutional knowledge, Tony, as you mentioned, all the documents, all the policies, all the manuals in the company. And last but not least, they need to have access to the business understanding, which is all the CRM, ERP data, but also an ability to drive action. And those three are kind of exactly mapped to WorkIQ, which provides
Got it.
the context from M365 and all the Outlook Teams data from there. Founder IQ allows you to understand the unstructured data, the institutional knowledge, all the manuals, the documents, the policies that are in those documents. And FabricQ allows you really to have those ontologies that really represents how the business operates, all the understanding that goes beyond just documents, but also all the analytical data together with operational data, with all there, but also to take an action.
Got it. Okay, last question here for today, and that is where do we go from here? And that's both Microsoft and the industry as a whole. Like, what else needs to happen? I assume you have quite a few ideas about what needs to happen beyond Fabric IQ or enhancements and such.
And I'll also add to that also in terms of how organizations really go up the adoption curve. So I'd like to add that to that question. Make it very loaded.
Yeah, so I think there are a few things that needs to happen. First of all, we're working on GAing Fabric IQ, which is a big step to make sure it's like fully general available for everyone to use it. But I think the next step is really to empower, Matt, as you asked, really to empower the business users and organization to build those ontologies quickly and easily. And we are investing a lot in agentic experiences that can help to build those ontologies very easily based on existing semantic models, but also existing data and metadata in the system. Really to have a jump start to create those ontologies because that's going to be kind of a bit the slowdown for organization to really adopt it. So we need to make it very easy, very seamless to create those ontologies. And when those ontologies created, then the integration that we are doing in the Microsoft ecosystem, but also outside is providing MCP, will enable organization to build those agents on top of those ontologies. And that will help really the LMs to not only understand the context, but also to be able to act on this context. And I think that's kind of the few immediate steps where I'm seeing it. Because today the LMs are very, very powerful. The problem is not with how powerful the LMs is the context that they're missing. And the context is not just the analytical context, as many companies have or starting to build. That's nice, but that's, I don't know, that's a previous decade. I don't think we need to move to the operational space. That's where the big difference that we're seeing from companies is if companies need to be much more competitive, much more relevant, they need to really serve their customers' needs in a much more efficient way. They need to help. They need to have the help of technology to move from the analytical to the operational, and that's where the combination of Microsoft Fabric all up, but also the aspects of the analytical space together with the operational space with Fabric Real-Time Intelligence and IQ really plays a big role with all up Microsoft IQ.
Yeah, not too much on our agenda here, I can tell. But
Yeah.
actually, a discussion I would love to have with you in about 6 or 8, maybe 10 months from now is lessons that we've learned as we start to put this together with MCP. Also looking at, are we going to start to see some domain-specific models here and how that could certainly. So Yitzhak, thanks very much. I mean, like I was just really blown away in terms of just how you covered such a wide swath here. I thought we were going to need twice as much time to do this, but you just really summed it up just really succinctly. Anyway, thanks very much for joining us today. And we'll look forward to having this conversation again in a few months to go through the lessons learned. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Matt.
Thank
Great
you.
having you.